On the 12th of March 1946, inside of Budapest in Hungary, a number of prominent Hungarian war criminals and former members of government were taken to their executions. The huge crowds had gathered to see former Prime Minister Ferenc Szalasi and many members of his cabinet being condemned. They were executed using pole hanging, and this was a method used inside of Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and a few other nations, and it utilised a 3-metre high post rather than a gallows and a trapdoor. But what is not as well known is the identity of the other men who were executed alongside Ferenc Szalasi, the former leader of the nation, and one of those was Jozsef Gera, who had been condemned for war crimes and crimes against humanity. But why was he executed? Welcome to The Untold Past. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Jozsef Gera was born on the 24th of October 1896, and he was a soldier who fought during the First World War on the Western Front as part of the Austro-Hungarian army. He was decorated during the conflict, but then after it had finished he became a paediatrician and children's doctor inside the town of Mako. But from 1939 Gera joined the Arrow Cross Party. This was a fascist organisation established by Ferenc Szalasi, as it originated from his Party of National Will. His party was rather small, and it was reorganised many times to eventually become the Arrow Cross. It was banned also, even during World War II, and it was suppressed. But then when the Germans and Nazis occupied Hungary, the Arrow Cross rose to power, and Ferenc Szalasi was placed into power by the Nazis, overseeing what was a puppet state. When the regent of Hungary, Hurfi, tried to negotiate peace with the Allies, the Germans forced him to place Szalasi and the Arrow Cross in power. They would, throughout their brief time, instigate a reign of terror, and they organised mass deportations of around 80,000 Jewish people who were sent to extermination and concentration camps, where many were slaughtered within minutes. There were huge death marches organised and overseen by the Arrow Cross. Jozsef Gera had been a long-standing member of the group, but from 1944 he was in charge of organising the party and was responsible for arranging rallies and mass gatherings, but he then became elected to a regent council in 1945. But the end of the war for Hungary was rather devastating. Many prominent politicians and members of the Arrow Cross went on the run, and they tried to save themselves from a war crimes trial. Ferenc Szalasi, the leader of the nation, tried to get to Germany, but he was arrested. Gera was arrested too, and was seized, but he was then taken to the People's Tribunal in Budapest. He was seen as one of those senior members of government who was responsible for the terror of the Arrow Cross, and he was responsible for many of the executions of dissenters and opponents of Szalasi. For this, he was sentenced to death alongside Szalasi, Gabor Vajna, and also Károly Berezovsky. He remained in prison until the 12th of March 1946, and he was brought out in front of the large crowd that had gathered in front of the Academy of Music in Budapest. There were many execution posts which had been set up, and the men were executed one by one. There was an executioner and his assistant who condemned the men using pole hanging, and this method utilised a system of ropes and pulleys, and the noose which was secured around the neck of the condemned after it was locked to a hook on the top of the pole. This was said to have been quicker in bringing out death in around 1 minute. Jozsef Gera was taken out to the execution post and was passed over to the executioner. He was secured to it, and his arms and legs were also locked in place. He was helped onto a stool, and the executioner passed a rope around the system, and then secured the noose around Gera's neck. The executioner's assistant was then told to remove the stool, and with this the executioner released a chest sling, which held Gera in the air, and the executioner tried his best to guide the condemned's neck to the side and manually dislocate it. After Gera was released and the noose snapped tight, the executioner placed a white cap over his head so that the crowd did not see the dying moments of Gera. He was one of many men who were executed that day, and after Gera's execution, there were other members of government brought out for their deaths on the pole. Thousands of people had gathered to see these executions because they hated the men, as they had caused so much pain and suffering during World War II. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.